I too rise to oppose this bill because to me there are a couple of fundamental flaws in this argument that means I can't support it. I also think it's worth mentioning in this debate the work being carried out by Portfolio Committee 4 in the inquiry into the long-term sustainability and future of the timber and forest products industry. The terms of reference of this inquiry compels the committee to consider a number of things, including habitat protection, and has conducted a number of site visits and hearings over several months. This included visits and witnesses related to the Koala Park being discussed. The report from this inquiry is currently still being developed and of course will be thoroughly considered by the committee, and I would imagine comments around the Koala Park will make up a big part of this report. As such, out of respect for this committee process, I think we should wait to see what this committee comes up with in relation to this matter. Also, the bill relies heavily on the report delivered by the University of Newcastle supporting the establishment of the Great Koala National Park, released in Feb 2021. A report commissioned by Bell Eye Council, Coffs Harbour City Council and Destination North Coast. The report's analysis has a few flaws in my eyes, including failing to account for the existing and potential benefits of state forests from an economic, tourism and ecological perspective. We've heard some wonderful things about what this Koala Park will deliver, so many jobs and so many dollars into local economies. But some of what we're hearing just doesn't add up. For instance, the jobs that will be created include the indirect jobs all the way through to the barista in the cafe. But for some reason, when referring to job losses, it only talks of the direct losses. At the recent forestry inquiry, the author of the report admitted to the omission of consideration of any impacts on jobs in support service industries relating to timber harvesting. No consideration of the impact of local timber mills, the regional economy and associated industries were incorporated. It doesn't include the mechanics who need to service the machinery, the retail workers who sell the work clothes, or the real estate worker who looks after the rental house. These jobs are all under risk under this proposal. As are the local clubs, community organisations. We lose volunteers from the RFS, members from the local footy team, kids out of the swimming club, and even students from the local school. We can never underestimate the importance of these things to our local communities. When they are lost, our community are lost. This report didn't even consider the impact on the mills, which of course would be enormous, with attached flow-on effects. To give you some idea of what these flow-on effects might be, we heard evidence in the timber inquiry that on the North Coast there are around 2,600 jobs in the forestry and first stage processing, mills, etc. That doesn't include indirect jobs, such as mechanics and tyre fitters, so the actual number would be significantly higher. All jobs this proposal puts at risk, a number much higher than spoken about in the report. So in a bit of sneaky maths to advance the cause, while proposals and arguments for this include the baristas that will all of a sudden be needed, these indirect jobs lost are not counted, so we're not comparing apples to apples. While the University of Newcastle report claims an array of potential economic and environmental opportunities from the proposed park, many of those purported benefits are purely speculative. While the report fails to explain why it is necessary to create a new national park to achieve them, they are all clearly possible on state forest land tenure. All the evidence I've heard points to the fact you can actually conduct more recreational activities in a state forest than you can in a national park. So I'm unclear how changing the status of this well-managed state forest will all of a sudden attract more visitors. Bushwalking, camping, horse riding, these activities can all be undertaken in the state forests. Multi-day hikes, mountain bikes, cultural practices and beekeeping, all allowable in a state forest. So this to me just casts doubt over the reported economic benefits this part would bring and therefore the overall benefits in general. It is possible to have sustainable timber industry while providing rigid protection for our threatened species. State forests are managed sustainably for a range of values, including biodiversity conservation, preservation of Aboriginal cultural heritage, tourism and recreation, and renewable timber production, all complementing and contributing to New South Wales' world-class conservation network. In New South Wales, the majority of public forests are set aside for conservation, and only a small proportion is available for renewable timber production. About 1% of the state's forest estate is harvested for timber and regrown each year, which is around 0.1% of the broader New South Wales forested landscape. The New South Wales Government must balance a range of considerations, including environmental, social and economic outcomes, to supply renewable timber from the small proportion of public forests designated for timber production. The New South Wales Forest Management Framework outlines how all forestry operations are regulated by a robust set of environmental safeguards. These have been developed following extensive research and protect wildlife habitats across the landscape and the ongoing biodiversity of the forests. Such research is ongoing. It is this science, together with the appropriate policy settings, that the New South Wales Government, through DPI Forestry and its other agencies, will use to continue the forest management framework of regulatory and statutory settings. The New South Wales Government's science and forest monitoring will continue to play a key part in ensuring the protection of the koala and other threatened species, and we will continue our commitment to getting the balance right. Well-managed forests that include harvesting operations carried out under the agreed forest management and environmental prescriptions are not a threat to koala habitat. This is supported by the recent work of Dr. Brad Law. His peer-reviewed before and after harvesting study found koala density was similar between paired national park and state forest sites. I bring to attention the recent work of the New South Wales Natural Resources Commission Forest Management Improvement Program. This program aims to improve the evidence base for decision-making for forest management across tenures. This will strengthen the New South Wales Government's ability to manage forests strategically and adaptively over time, including state forests, national parks, private native forests and Crown forested land. In the case of koala protection, the Office of the Chief Science and Engineer reported in 2016 that landscape-scale threats, including habitat loss and climate change, are exacerbated by the impacts of local threats, such as vehicle strike, dog attack and disease, not timber harvesting. People have spoken about the declaration of the Threatened Species Scientific Committee determination that the koala be listed as endangered and the impacts of native forest upon koalas. I point to the NRC again for a bit more guidance on this, from whom I learnt that this determination, amongst the human activities identified as resulting in loss, fragmentation and degradation of koala habitats, forestry barely rates a mention. Other activities did, including urban expansion, mining and land clearing for grazing certainly, but none of these activities are permitted in state forests. So again, I'm not convinced of the current need for this bill. Forestry operations provide substantial economic benefit by supplying dozens of local mills and businesses that harvest and process forest products and employ local community members. State forests in New South Wales have been sustainably managed and regrown for more than 100 years. This careful management continues to ensure that they will provide environmental, economic and social benefits for future generations. New South Wales Government has put in place a range of programs, protections, regulations and policies to help secure the future of koalas in the wild. This bill is not supported by strong science or evidence, which is why I will not be supporting it. I do, however, acknowledge the intentions of Ms Furman and also compliment her passion and commitment to this cause, which I find admirable. The same goes for others who have spoken with genuine passion on this, and no doubt a couple more to come. I look forward to further discussions on this in the context of the House's timber inquiry, and no doubt beyond that. Let's keep doing more to protect this wonderful animal.